Well, good afternoon or good morning, wherever you may be. This is Matt West from Cary, North Carolina. On behalf of PowerChalk, I'd like to welcome you to another session for our great partnership with USA Diving. And I believe we have Jason Baumann, the Director of Education from USA Diving, with us today. Jason, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello, how are you?
Folks, Jason is, it's not only, I'll embarrass him for a minute, it's his birthday, but he's not celebrating in the usual form. He's actually in Greensboro, North Carolina at one of the great dive events at the Greensboro Aquatic Center. And so Jason is joining us live from there. We also have Allison Brennan with us. Allison, are you there?
Hello, good morning or good afternoon.
Allison, can I share the big news today? Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Now, folks, you got to pay attention here. When Allison and I first met, I believe she was the head dive coach at the University of South Carolina and then went on to be the head dive coach for the club dive team in South Carolina. We have some big news to report to you that Allison has just accepted the head dive coach position at Boise State. And we want to say congratulations to you, Allison. What an honor to both have that position and also an honor for us to have you on the broadcast today.
Well, thank you very much.
So, Jason, you're there live in Greensboro, and you've got a lot of young people diving, and I want to take just a minute to introduce the fact that we also have joining us today, Jacob Crisp on our staff is live in the Greensboro Aquatic Center, and he is showing this broadcast live there. So if you happen to be down there, hello, greetings. Thanks for joining us. For all of you that have joined elsewhere, welcome to the broadcast. Jason, why don't you take us a little bit through what's going on there in Greensboro, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit about the great news that's going on in London.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have today at 9 a.m. was the first day of our age group national championships. We just completed the first two events, the 11 under 1 meter and the 11 under girls 1 meter, 11 under boys 3 meter. And just are beginning and partway through our second event of here. Have over 300 athletes that are competing in the first 3 days, and then we move on the fourth to our junior national championships, followed by the seniors and the AT&T national championship. So it's going to be a busy time here in Greensboro, and their pool looks great and getting things moving here and going along very well. And obviously we have great news from London, and if this is a spoiler alert, if you haven't watched today's coverage on the live on NBC Extra, you may want to hold away for just a second here, but I'll go with the U.S. has converted a 3-for-3 today, picking up a medal in the men's 3-meter synchro event. So we are super excited, not only here, but I'm sure over in London, and really proud of the direction and the plan that was set out and how it's come to fruition. And so happy for our staff and our whole community. It's great for all of USA Diving.
Well, and I think I speak on behalf of all of us fans. The coverage and the actual achievement by our team has just been remarkable. And of course, not to be Homer here, it's awful nice to see our good friend Drew Johansson, the head diving coach at Duke University, and obviously the head coach of the Olympic team, not only having such great success on the team level, but also two of his divers, as we well know. In fact, Allison and I were talking earlier today about Abby Johnston, and we're going to show a little bit of that today. But why don't we go ahead and get started? And again, reintroduce Allison and Jason. I don't know if you have to drop off. We certainly understand because we can hear the bodies landing in the pool behind you, which is a great sound effect for you folks. But for those of you who have joined us before, you know that we go through a very brief introduction that our PowerChalk product is the first and only completely web-based motion analysis system, and really the first one that's scalable to any audience, not just a Major League professional sports franchise or an Olympic team or a Division I college, but you right there at home who might have a 12 or 13-year-old club diver, and now will get the great experience in the sage counsel of a coach like Allison Brennan and someone like Jason Baumann. You have the ability to upload videos from a variety of sources. If I take you over here and just show you through our partnership with USA Diving, you can log on for your free account. You get 10 additional video storage slots just for signing up, and again, that's courtesy of our great partner, USA Diving. And be mindful of the fact that today's August 1st, and you're going to be it's time to renew your USA Diving membership, and your PowerChalk account comes right with that. So you can use your smartphone. I know that one of the dives today we're going to analyze that Jason uploaded was with his iPhone. We're also Android compatible, and we have a whole series of apps you can use to actually make your tablet or your phone the actual instruction device. But let's get right to the diving. That's what you're here to see. I'm in my locker, and if you notice, I've been able to collate my videos by sport, so I've picked the sport of diving, and what that does is load every single dive video in our system that is marked public. If you also notice, I can reach down below my friends, and I've got Jason Baumann as my friend, so I'm going to click on Jason's account, and again, it preloads in the dives that he has just uploaded from Greensboro. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a video that he and Allison talked about, and I'm going to load it into the Telestrator. If you notice, I went over with my mouse and simply clicked on the little icon of the man with the headset. And if you notice, you get the idea that the scale of the screen is horizontal, but because we're using an iPhone video, it scales more vertically, but nevertheless captures the ability to analyze. And I'm not going to go, Allison and Jason, through all the rudimentary things we talk about. I'm just going to go ahead and go right to it. So, Allison, why don't we go ahead and get started? I'm going to roll the mouse wheel. So I now have my icon over the plus button. I'm just rolling my mouse wheel. And you wanted me to kind of start, I believe, at frame 11 and draw a line, which I just grab the line button, let go, and then get on the screen, click and hold it down between her chest and the board.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and have you go ahead and take over. Ladies and gentlemen, Allison Brennan.
And what you guys can see right here is her position, how her chest is over her knees, over her toes, allowing her to stay balanced on the board, dropping down in a relatively great position, keeping her balance and staying there. And obviously, if you want to scroll forward just a little bit to about 15, you can see where she starts to pick her head up a little bit. And this, my personal opinion as a diving coach and as a diver, I like to see the head down a little bit more, but as she starts to pick the head up a little bit and her arms are circling back behind her a little bit, you can start to see her weight shift from her shoulders being over her toes to almost, if you want to draw a line straight down, you can see her body shift to where it almost looks like her weight is on her heels, thus having the diver, what we call, have a little lean off the diving board versus staying a little more chest over your toes where she could jump a little more straight up. And the only thing that that'll affect mainly is the bottom of the dive. Pretty much whatever your lean is off the board is relative to what your entry is going to be, whether it be vertical, a little over, or a little short. And if you scroll up to frame 19, I think you can see her starting, oh, I just went there. You see her starting to stand up and lift her chest. And again, like I was saying, she's not, her balance is again on the heels of her toes and not necessarily on the balls of her feet, which is where we want to keep the balance.
So, folks, when I'm listening to Allison and Jason with their expert commentary, as I'm drawing the lines and circles here in Cary, again, Allison is in South Carolina, Jason's in Greensboro, North Carolina, and you folks are either at your home, your office, your hotel room, or you're standing there with Jacob Crisp, our colleague in Greensboro. And sometimes what I like to do, Allison and Jason, no matter what the sport is sometimes you use some of the drawing tools, specifically the one you're looking at here, the circle, is really to almost create a laser focusing effect on that one particular area. So you were focusing on her weight being on her heels rather than where you want her to be. Sometimes just drawing a circle around that is not just to say, yes, those are the feet, but really more to bring some really clear focus into what you're talking about. So let's go ahead and keep moving, Allison or Jason. You guys keep going.
Yeah. Hey, Allison, can I hop in for a second and just ask you a question?
Of course.
One of the things I noticed when I'm just watching it is that as she comes through, the other thing I would say is that timing of when she starts bending her knees and where she gets into that position also contributes to where she starts at. Because to me, as she starts bending the knees there, she's already starting to extend
Pull up
before
with
her
the
arms
chest.
get up, which is certainly, I think, that also a a contributing factor as to why that balance gets off. Would you agree with that?
Completely agree with that.
So as I toggle back and forth here between frames, say 16 and 19, Jason, you're alluding to the fact that her back position starts to move, kind of almost to this angle here. Is that accurate?
Well, that and that she's already starting to extend the legs, and as she is, that is where her chest starts to then move away.
Okay.
Because her timing is a little off on the arm swing and the knee bend together, and that coordination.
So here let's focus in on that just for a second, Allison. You wanted me to at one point, and we've already done it, focus on 19, but just for our viewers' sake, where do you believe her arms should be at this particular point in the dive? Are they in the right proper position?
I'd argue that they should be almost vertical and straight up at that position. Not quite. Correct. I mean, probably slightly in front. So as that she's extending and her legs are straight, that their arms should already be up. So as you're going forward. But at that position, probably the angle you just drew in there is perfect.
Correct.
Okay. So now let's go ahead and you wanted me to roll this thing forward a little bit there. And as I'm doing that frame by frame, again, you folks at home, I can use my mouse clicker to roll it forward, or I can just roll the mouse wheel, or I can come up to the timeline. And again, the timeline right down here, we've kind of got what we akin to a two-tape VCR. You can just grab the A button and hold it down and pull it and go back and forth. I'll go ahead and erase that markup and go back to my mouse wheel. You were kind of thinking like frame 32, Allison?
Correct.
And if you folks...
Yep, go ahead.
I'm sorry, and you folks if you look below the video timeline, you see where you see the letter A and then frame. That shows you the video timeline. We're on frame 32 of 112, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. Go ahead, Allison.
If you roll through frame 32 through 36, you can watch her arms start to reach forward to her toes, not necessarily her feet coming all the way up. It's almost like her upper body is going back towards her lower body. And for a back dive, you want your legs to come up almost all the way up to your arms that are over your head before you start to move your upper body. You want to kind of come in together in a V versus upper body down to your toes, because that helps your rotation continue up and hit vertical should you touch a little higher. And if you watch her arms kind of come, it almost looks like she comes down the sides to her toes. And if you actually see, she doesn't quite hit her toes. She more so hits right up on her ankles, and that's just because she didn't quite finish the jump and the line with her arms, and so she wasn't able to reach all the way up and over to her toes. And Jason, obviously, if you have anything to say about that as well, please feel free to chime in.
No, I fully agree. I think that the contribute also is that she's already starting to move out of position instead of getting all the way folded in, which is also a result of that. It's almost the anticipation piece, and it's a great format for us to be able to kind of talk back and forth and pick out little small details in other areas and ways to collaborate as coaches, and that's why I think this is a great demonstration of that.
Before we move on, Allison, I wanted to remind people that we've also got Ryan Magnuson, one of our chief guys here at the office. You have the ability to type in questions. If it's a technical question about our system and how to use it, Ryan will try to answer those questions on the fly or at the end of the telecast. Again, if you'd like to type in questions for Jason or Allison about this particular dive, please do so, and I'll read those questions out loud to them, and they can answer them as we go along. Back to you, Allison.
Well, just going off of what Jason was saying as well, as she's starting to come out of the dive before she's fully in, I kind of noticed her head position. She was already looking back, which is taking her eyes off of her toes, which is another reason why she didn't fully get all the way in, because she's more so coming out of the dive and thinking about that before she's all the way touched into the dive. And if you roll to frame 48, you can see her come out, which looks relatively good. I mean, her head's back, but her arms slide nicely right along the body. And from 36 to 48, like I said, is relatively good. Me personally, as a diving coach, if you want to circle right around her hip area, and you can notice that she's in a little bit of a pike, I personally, as a coach and as an athlete, would like to see her squeeze her bottom a little bit more and extend those hips out to create more of a straight line versus having that little crunched pike look. again, that's a preference that I have. I think it makes it look a little nicer.
So
But again,
you're talking about this small little
Yep.
angle right there.
Correct.
Oops, I didn't want to do that last part. Let me try that again. How do you like that one? No art lessons for this young man here. So you're talking about that little angle there. And by the way, folks, when you're using some of these tools like the angle button, if the degree, the 144 degrees is unimportant, you just go down to the angle button and you click that little arrow in the bottom corner. If you notice where it says X and percentage, that means it'll show it. If you take it off, it won't show the degrees. It'll just show the actual line drawing. What's next, guys?
I mean, if you take it through frame 60, I think it'll stop there. It'll show her point of entry. Where right there, she looks like she's going in straight in. I like the angle of that entry. Even though she didn't quite get all the way flat out, she still got in. However, if you continue to scroll through, I think right around frame 64 and 66, it shows how the angle of her start correlates to the angle of her entry, and she ends up what we say is going over or kicking over just a little bit. She doesn't keep that line straight down the whole way through. Thus, this dive is going to be over a little bit.
I would say that the nerdy scientist in me says that energy is neither created nor destroyed, merely transferred from one form to another. As she leans in the beginning and gets that energy, it's got to come out somewhere, and that's that whip over at the end.
Boy, I tell you what, I listened to that, and you know, guys, I listened to that here, and I'm sure the audience, whether they're at home or in Greensboro with you, Jason, that really resonates really in all sports. I mean, it's so much about what you do at the beginning of the activity, that direct cause and effect. So what we've got here, Allison, is a pretty good dive based on what you're saying, but again, that little lean in the beginning leads to her going a little bit past vertical on the entry. Anything else on this particular dive?
No, I think we kind of hit the basic points. Jason, do you have any
No, I think
stuff
that's
that
good.
we missed or you want to key in on?
No, not really. You know, like I said, I think one of the key things I always wanted to talk about is that was video we took yesterday afternoon, uploaded this morning, and we're able to pull out and talk about right away. I think that's, you know, the instantaneousness of the feedback is really the one of the great aspects and really things that we have going with PowerChalk is that you can upload the video right away. It was done from an iPad and simple and easy to use. So, you know, hope that people are seeing the benefits in that. I don't have anything technical to add to that actual clip, though.
Well, let me take my first shot at video analysis of a dive, and no loss of humor on this end. I watched this dive a number of times, and my primary focus was on this young man on the other board. So, not that we're going to evaluate his dive, but he's looking over at his parent right now. If you played the video, he's looking at his parent who is screaming at him to jump in the water. And as you all can see on the other end, from right here to right here, he's made a decision not to jump in the water. Anyway, let's go back to serious dive talk here. I'm going to go ahead and take her. I'm just dragging her back as we talked about Allison. And then if you notice, folks, over here on the right-hand side, when I loaded this dive, per Allison's request, you notice that there's a load B button that occurs, and that's the ability for you to load another dive and literally put it shoulder to shoulder, side by side next to the original video. Great place for you to go out and use our system to get some of the great quality content that we've loaded at a number of these dive meets, the U.S. Grand Prix, and what you'll be able to do is take videos of some of the premier divers in the world and use them as models. So I'm going to do just that, and I'm going to go in, and if you notice, I'm in the public video area, and I'm just going to go ahead and type in Abby. And what it does, it brings up, again, anything that is marked Abby in the entire system. And so I kind of previewed this dive here, and Allison and I agreed, as I erased that markup at the top, I've loaded a dive that gives the ability for the person who, and maybe it's Jason, who's this person who you're looking at now. Jason's her dive coach, and yet here's Abby Johnston, and we have the ability to take advantage of this content and put it in split screen. So now we can put these two divers right next to each other. Now, they're not the same dive as Allison and I discussed, but it would be pretty good counsel to be able to talk about the very beginning of the dive. And so what I'm going to do is Allison, you go ahead and start talking. I'm going to get her to this position here, and I'll go ahead and come over and notice that when the green lines go around Abby, that means I'm controlling her video. Let me drag her to a similar position, and then I'll call on you two experts to maybe, as I now roll the mouse wheel, a little bit different, again, approach. So, guys, you're on.
See, for me, what the difference that you see here is both definitely have their chests over their toes. However, Abby's chest and head are a little more neutral and balanced, and that has to do a lot with where her arm position is. Her arm position is still, I wouldn't say over her head, but it's above her shoulders, whereas in frame A, the other girl has already started to almost swing down, and her arms are close to the back of her body. So arm position for me is key in that one, and Abby's arm position allows her to stay shoulders over those toes, balance on the balls of the feet a lot easier and for longer than frame A.
Yeah, and certainly she's dropping her weight, much more dropping the weight and pushing the board down with her body weight rather than trying to force the board down with her arms, which is usually a pretty common mistake for youth,
Correct.
For the younger divers, and some that aren't as experienced or have that kind of technique piece done down so much.
So what I'm going to do, I'm sorry, keep going, Jason. I'm going to just get to a point where they're both leaving the board, and then I can back it up if I want to, but that'll give you guys a chance to be able to, again, if they're just about at the same point where they're leaving the board, right about there,
yeah.
I can then lock those two together, and I can actually roll my mouse wheel and have them as one. So, guys, you're back on.
Go ahead,
I
Al.
was going to start and say, if you notice, Abby's hips were a lot more up and over the board, which is going to direct her line more straight up, versus in line A, her arms are already back, and you can see where she's starting to lean off, which is going to put her point of trajectory a little more back versus legs coming up and over the board. Jay?
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there, is that her direction of flight and takeoff are really determined in going the right direction, and a lot of that has to do with all the timing pieces with the arms and the legs and the balance that she had established first. But certainly this is a way to show your younger diver, here's kind of where it's going, and here's where we need to make some small adjustments. I think it's really valuable from that perspective too.
Correct. I agree.
So as we use the split screen tool, again, I want to allude to whether you're a parent at home, a dive coach, the actual diver, what we're doing today, and this is what's so compelling, and I learn every time I listen to Allison and Jason talk about diving, is 3 ways to use the product. You as the dive coach can sit there at home or in your locker room or your office and sit shoulder to shoulder with an athlete, with a diver, and be able to watch video and do analysis just like this. The second way to use the product, and this is what starts leading us into a little bit different area than our competitive products, is that you could press the record button, and this could be you, the dive coach, in Indianapolis, and the diver may be in South Carolina, and you can take a dive that has been submitted, as Jason submitted this iPad video this morning, could send that to, again, very easily send it to Allison. Allison could mark it up, record it, save it, and send it right back to Jason while Jason's standing on the pool deck. Or, as you've seen today, the revolutionary PowerChalk PowerCast system, which allows you to do live screen sharing. And as you've seen today, if you're on the other end of this, it's one-to-one or one-to-many. So Allison Brennan could literally have all of her divers at Boise State in their dorm rooms, in their apartments, at their homes, and she could be giving this kind of analysis remotely to 10, 15, 20, 30 divers all at the same time. Jason?
I was going to say, I think another great aspect of that is Allison moving off to Boise, and I lived in that part of the world too, out in Wyoming and in Utah as well, but gives her a chance to collaborate with someone even that's across the country as well. So if Allison is coaching and has got some videos and she's struggling with one particular athlete, just can't seem to make that change and is looking for extra influence, something she could send to a request through the email and to share her video with me or someone else, another coach that she wants to get an opinion from, and they can give them that feedback right there on the phone while they're both doing that, which I think is a huge advantage rather than kind of being in the coaching bubble by yourself, as I'd like to call it almost.
Oh, I fully agree with that. I completely think that it's such a great tool, and it just allows coaches to gain more experience because, like you said, there may be something that you see that I don't, or it may just be the way that you say it that translates to the athlete and they get it. So
yeah, absolutely, and I think that's really what we're trying to do is really how can we help performance, and it's a benefit for all of us to work in that regard and work together.
Correct.
Guys, a couple of housekeeping issues before we leave the Telestrator, just for our audience. If you go down to the bottom right-hand corner of the ChalkTalk Telestrator, there's a little yellow box with a question mark. You can click that and then scroll your mouse wheel over, and it basically gives you a written explanation and tutorial about how to use each one of those buttons. I won't bore you with that today. Just to the left of that, though, is a printer and a camera. The printer allows you that if this was something that Allison said, I want to print that frame out right there, then what you're looking at right now on your screen, all the markup, if I just drew a straight line on Abby and then came over and drew a straight line on the diver on the left, and I wanted to literally print that, I could print that and give the diver a hard copy if that was the most important one thing they needed to take away from a session. Or, again, very simply put, you can use the camera and that takes a snapshot of that same frame and you can email that. So even though you may be doing a 8-minute analysis session, you can capture very, very specific parts of that and get that to the diver, to the student very, very quickly. So, Jason, I'm going to get out of the Telestrator for a minute and go into, just as we do every time, to make sure everybody understands. USA Diving and PowerChalk have a wonderful partnership, and it's time for you guys to go ahead and, as you renew your USA Diving membership or join for the very first time, tell your friends and colleagues it's time to get on board with USA Diving. And what a great time to be associated with the sport when we're seeing the kind of global success that we're having in the Olympics. Free account waiting for you, 10 video storage slot additional to what we provide, courtesy of USA Diving. If you want to have some of the bells and whistles that you saw today, yes, there's a cost, but let me just make sure you know that when you look at our menu of how you can buy the product, from a packaged annual subscription all the way down to one item at a time, the most important thing you need to know is the promotional code for you to use as a USA Diving member is USA Diving, all caps, and then all of the pricing you see there is cut by 50% off. So for what you've seen today, to have again, the Cadillac, the very best that we offer, would basically cost you less than $50 a year, and you'd have 500 video storage, etc. We're not saying that that's what you have to buy, because you can also come down here and buy inventory in your locker for $9.95. Cut by 50% off, that's less than $5 to add 25 more slots. So that kind of gives you a little bit of the lay of the land on the upgrade piece. Again, I know that Jason uses it. I'm not sure about Allison. I know Drew does. Drew's a tablet guy. He's got an iPad on the pool deck. Go in there and check out the 10-second Telestrator. When you see it here as I bring it up, it's got an incredibly bad picture of my golf swing as the tutorial. So
that's the picture, not your swing, right?
So you'll know that I am a student of that's being used. That's a teacher is using this on. But it allows you to really upload dives, really in real time on the pool deck. Walk over to the diver getting out of the pool and get them at that most coachable moment, and use the Telestrator and your finger and draw right on top of the screen of your tablet. And if you look at that red button right at the top left hand of the menu, that's the record button, so you can actually record markup and your voice while you're standing there with the diver, who's hopefully not dripping on your iPad, but right there at that most coachable moment. So again, Jason, we can't tell you how grateful we are for our association, and again, it's so exciting for me to sit at home with my wife and my children and not only brag about the fact that we've got a great partnership with USA Diving, but to see these incredible athletes in action on the most global stage. So we're very grateful for that. And,
absolutely.
Go ahead.
We are as well, and we're thankful to have the innovation and the foresight to envision to help us along in our journey, and really invite everybody, people who are on today, and to tell your friends, go to practice, upload a video of your child or your athlete, and so that we can use it one of these future sessions and talk about that and break stuff down if you have questions, and or even send it to us and share the link with us and see if I'd be happy to help in any way I can as well. So really just got to keep people connecting and trying to communicate and collaborate for our future success. So
I agree.
We're grateful for
well,
everything.
It's our pleasure. And Allison, pleasure to have you back on with us today. You add so much to these broadcasts, and we want to congratulate you on your, again, for those of you who joined us late, Allison Brennan is now the official brand new head diving coach at Boise State. So making a move from the Carolinas. We got a lot of Carolina representation, not Carolina the university, but a lot of the geography on the call today with us in Cary, North Carolina, Jason visiting Greensboro, Allison in South Carolina. So we're gonna move Allison out west shortly. And I know, Jason, we appreciate you joining us as always, and especially on your birthday. Happy birthday! Enjoy Greensboro.
Thank you very much.
I'll be seeing you on Friday. As we do with all these sessions, folks, we tape this and we will post it to YouTube. If you want to watch this great analysis session with Allison and Jason again, you want to tell your friends to go watch it. It'll be on YouTube. And don't forget, you can also go to Facebook.com/PowerChalk Sports, and if you like our Facebook page, we'll put some more storage in your locker absolutely free. But it starts with going in and signing up for your free account, and that's very easy to do right there. And Jason, thank you again for all you're doing. If any of you who are watching the broadcast today have any questions that you'd like us to answer, you can type those in now. We're going to conclude the visual broadcast, and we'll be glad to take any questions. Allison, Jason, thank you very much for joining us again, and we'll keep our fingers crossed for continued success at the Olympics.
Well, thank you so much for having us. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, and I'll hang out for a few minutes if there's any questions as well. So thank you.
Sure.